Well, to Zambia now, where court premises in the capital, Lusaka, and elsewhere have been closed as a deadline to challenge the outcome of the recent presidential election approaches.
Okay, guys, something really interesting is happening in Zambia, and honestly, the timing of this one is what caught my attention. Now, imagine you're an opposition politician, you just lost a presidential election, and you have a limited amount of time to challenge the election in court. And on the very last day you are supposed to file that challenge, the courts are closed. This is exactly what happened in Zambia. Zambia top courts were shut on the final day for filing a legal challenge to the presidential election. Now, you can already imagine the questions people started asking. Why were the courts closed on such an important day? And was this done to prevent the opposition from challenging the election? And let's break it down. President Hakainde Hichilema was declared the winner on the August 13 presidential election with roughly 60% of the votes. This we know. But opposition leader Brian Mundubile, who came second with about 38%, said he wanted to challenge the results, alleging irregularities. So this court deadline was extremely important. But then came the surprise. The Judiciary announced that the courts would be closed, citing security concerns. And this is where things became controversial, because critics argued that closing the court on the exact day the election challenge deadline expired could interfere with the opposition's constitutional rights to challenge the results.
There is uncertainty in Zambia over opposition plans to file a court challenge to President Hakainde Hichilema's re-election victory. This comes as Zambian authorities shut down the country's top courts on Monday. Opposition leader Brian Mundubile of the Tonsi Alliance said he planned to file a petition at the Constitutional Court to challenge the outcome of the 13th August presidential election, in which he came second to Hichilema, according to official results. The deadline to file is Tuesday, 25th August. However, the Supreme Court premises in Lusaka, where the Constitutional Court is located, were closed on Monday. Local media quoted judiciary sources saying the courts were closed for security reasons, though no detailed official statement was issued. The move has sparked controversy. Opposition politicians and the Law Association of Zambia condemned the closure, citing its timing and implications for access to justice. The association's president, Arnold Kluba, called for the reopening of the courts. However, state broadcaster ZNBC quoted Judicial and Allied Workers Union President Peter Mwale as saying the closure has nothing to do with any particular cases and should be respected. Analysts say any court challenge could delay Hichilema's swearing-in set for 1st September. Despite the obstacles, the opposition has vowed not to give up. Hichilema, who came to power in 2021, won re-election with about 60% of the vote. His UPND party has rejected opposition claims of irregularities. Since the vote, tensions have risen. Mundubile was summoned by police over alleged national security threats, which he denies. Security forces raided his home and arrested several of his allies, while former minister Mutotwe Kafwaya was killed during the raid.
Well, to Zambia now, where court premises in the capital, Lusaka, and elsewhere have been closed as a deadline to challenge the outcome of the recent presidential election approaches. Opposition candidate Brian Mundubile says he intends to challenge President Hakainde Hichilema's re-election over alleged irregularities. The Law Association of Zambia is demanding that access to the courts be restored immediately, saying that it is concerned by the presence of heavily armed military personnel around court premises and the lack of a formal public explanation for the closures. But the Zambia Police Service maintains that the security operations are part of intelligence-led risk assessments at key government premises and are not directed at any individual or group. Well, these developments come just days before President Hichilema is due to be inaugurated for a second term on the 1st of September. The BBC's Dingidaba, Jonah Buyoya, tells us more.
On August 18, Zambia's incumbent President Hakainde Hichilema was declared winner of the country's 2026 election. Hichilema beat his closest rival Brian Mundubile by securing over 60% of the vote. This re-election gives Hichilema another 5 years as president.
We stand before you with profound humility and gratitude to accept the mandate that you have given us, yet to continue serving you, the people. people of Zambia.
According to Zambia's constitution, Hichilema is due to be inaugurated on Tuesday, the 1st of September 2026. But this may not be the case just yet. Opposition candidate Brian Mundubile has disputed the election. He has since indicated that he would challenge the election result in court, but the country's rules require that he begins the process officially within 7 days of the election declaration. Monday is the final day of the petition window, and court premises in Lusaka and other parts of the country have been sealed off and barricaded with crime scene tape. Significant police presence has also been seen there.
I'm in Lusaka, Zambia's capital, and the country is facing a political test at the moment. And here is why. The country's top courts have been closed just as the deadline for challenging the presidential election results is about to expire. On Monday, authorities shut down the courts following a memorandum from the chief administrator of the Judiciary. The closure was reportedly due to security concerns, with court staff instructed not to report for work. The courts remain closed and there is still no indication of when they will reopen. Why does this matter? The court closure could prevent any legal challenge to this month's election results from being filed. Opposition leader Brian Mundubile announced last week that he intended to petition the Constitutional Court over the outcome of the August 13 election. But with court access blocked, filing that petition may not be possible. Under Zambian law, anyone seeking to challenge the presidential election results has just 7 days after the official announcement to do so. Mundubile's legal team has until Tuesday to meet that deadline. Some analysts warn that shutting down the courts at such a critical moment leaves little room for political grievances to be addressed through legal channels and could undermine Zambia's democratic progress. President Hakainde Hichilema was declared the winner with around 60% of the vote. However, two independent observer reports raised concerns about alleged irregularities, including claims of inflated vote counts. Hichilema and his team have rejected those allegations. For now, all eyes are on Zambia and how the country navigates this latest political challenge.
Did President Hakainde Hichilema shut down Zambia's courts to stop the opposition from challenging the election? Well, that's the allegation making the rounds. But now, State House has responded and says the claim is simply not true. In a statement issued today, State House says the president does not have the constitutional power to decide when courts open, close, or who gets to file a case. Why, you may ask? Because Zambia has separation of powers. The judiciary is an independent arm of government. But here's where the story gets interesting. State House says Monday's security operation was not targeted at the courts alone. According to the statement, security risk assessments were being carried out at several government institutions, including the Ministry of Justice, Home Affairs, the National Prosecution Authority, and the Attorney General's chambers. The explanation? Security intelligence. So, State House says the measures were preventive and intended to protect government premises, officials, and members of the public. That's you and I. And there's another argument they're making. They say Zambia has suspended or disrupted court operations before, including during COVID-19 when court calendars were affected for public safety reasons. But here comes the biggest question. If the intention was to stop an election petition, why wait until Monday? The Electoral Commission of Zambia declared the presidential results on the 18th of August. That is when the constitutional window for challenging the result opened. So, according to State House, courts were operating on the working days that followed, and no presidential petition was filed during that period. State House is therefore challenging those claiming that they were prevented from filing. So, their message is essentially this: show us the petition, show us when you tried to file it, and show us evidence that you were prevented. But there's an important distinction here. A security operation affecting physical access to government premises is not automatically the same thing as legally denying someone access to a judicial remedy.
And the closure of the court premises today have nothing to do with particular cases. What is there today is a security threat to judicial workers. Now, we want to make the record very clear. Ours as a union, ourselves, our interest is on the safety of employees of the judiciary. I'm sure right now you are aware that there's now a security assessment that is going on, being carried out by security wings of this country. And this security assessment is being done in all government institutions, and the judiciary is one of those. In fact, what happened yesterday, one of our members of staff was arrested in the night yesterday. So we can't go further into that, but what is here is that the security and the safety of judicial workers, in fact, is across the country now. It's imminent now that it has become threatened. Therefore, we are saying that the courts, as far as we know, will remain closed. In fact, I want to take this opportunity now to appeal to all judicial workers across the country not to work. Not to work. Why? Until the security situation improves in our court premises. Because we cannot risk the lives of judicial workers. We can't do that. The threat is real. I have information myself. We have gotten information of what is happening at the moment. But what we can say at the moment is that judiciary itself has no control over the security. The security wing of the Republic of Zambia, they are the ones that do an assessment and looking at what is obtaining on the ground. Perhaps let me remind the people of Zambia that this is not the first time actually courts are closing on account of security threats. Not long ago, during COVID, courts closed. I think people remember that. And way back in 1996-93, there was a Black Mamba operation and a zero option. Okay, I'm sure those that were there, they remember. Courts closed that time for more than a week. And during that time, I can assure you, the threat was so real to the extent that there were bomb scares. I was there myself, my general secretary was there. And many people that were there, those who were old enough, they can remember this. So now what we are saying that our focus ourselves as a union in the judiciary is the safety of employees.
Now we have to be very careful, and this is important. There is no actual evidence that President Hichilema personally ordered the court to be closed to stop the opposition from filing its petition. The official explanation was security related. And now there's another twist. The opposition did eventually file its election petition. So this isn't just a story of the opposition simply being locked out of court and unable to challenge the election. But now the question remains, why were the courts closed on the very last day of the filing period? And was the security explanation enough to convince anyone? Because when you combine an election dispute, an opposition challenging the results, and then the sudden closure of the courts on the deadline, people are naturally going to have questions. And for Zambia, this is bigger than just one court's closure. It raises questions about how election disputes are handled, whether opposition parties can effectively access the courts, and how much confidence people have in the country's democratic institutions. Now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think closing the courts on the final day of an election challenge was simply a security decision? Or do you understand why people became suspicious about the timing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video informative, do not forget to like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in my next one.